So we're live. What do you think about that, huh? Can you see yourself, Mila? Hi, Karen. Good to see you. So Mila decided to join us for this live streaming, which I decided to do. I've never done a live streaming before, and neither has Mila. But hello, Pina. How are you? Kathy and Ashley, welcome, welcome. So there's a reason why we're doing the live streaming. And I just want to give a special heart-centered shout out to Linda G. Today is the day she gets to take your hand and dance in the streets with you and sing, I got it right, I got it right, I got it right. She's a good reader, so please support her channel. All right, so everybody, hi everybody, sending love to you all, blessings, blessings from my heart to yours. Please, if you feel that you're learning something about heart-centered empathy meditations, please donate to the children at the border. We're giving our donations this year to the children at the border. Let us set the children free. Let us set the children free. That has been our prayer all along. So we're going to go ahead and give all the money this month that we raise to children at the border. We'll be giving it to the ACLU, and we'll be giving it to Racist. That was a tale. And any other charities that you all feel we need to support to help the children. Because I was a foster child, I always also encourage people to give to the American foster care system here in the United States. There are some good foster parents out there, and we want to support their work. So I have given links for 30 ways that you can support foster children, everything from volunteering to being a mentor to donating for school supplies, etc. So I wanted to take this opportunity for people to ask me any questions about the remotes that I have done. This was partially an experiment to see how effective empathy could be used as a mediation tool to reach across the aisle and to begin to put ourselves in the shoes of another human being and to feel empathy for them. I've been asked in the past if I could talk a little bit about evil and what it's like to be in the heart of an evil person. I've never been in the heart of an evil person, but I have been in the heart of people who are wounded, people who've been traumatized, people who have been in tremendous fear. And my heart went out to them. And I find that those people who are in fear, those people who are frozen, sometimes do sick things. And so now we see what's happening with the exposure coming out with Epstein. And so I want to review it based on the remotes we did over since January. We've had the channel up since January. Like I said, we believe in science here on this channel, so we documented everything so that it could be reviewed by the scientist and the people the psychologists and psychiatrists, etc., who watched the channel so that we could just collect the data and see how accurate we were. So if anybody wants me to go ahead and review the remotes I did on anybody in the past, what it looked like from a remote perspective, please reach out to me. Mila's kind of walking all over the place. And any questions about what it's like to be a remote viewer. A lot of people ask what is going on in my head when I lock on to a target, when I open my heart and then ask. First, I take care of myself. One of the questions I got is, am I ever scared? If you're doing the empathy technique, you know that there are 3 phases to the empathy technique. The first phase is that you relax and you allow the energy of white light to enter the space. And that is how you ground, and that is how you protect yourself. And that is the first thing you do. You bring in white light protection. And after you bring in the white light protection, you allow love to come in. In the Catholic mystical tradition, that was called abiding in Christ. That was how Teresa of Avila would do it. And we like her. She's pretty inspirational. In the Torah tradition, in the Jewish tradition, we would close our eyes. We would say the Shema. That was the traditional Jewish prayer. And Jewish tradition and Jewish mystical tradition of the oneness of of human beings and how we are connected is a very ancient idea. And it's embedded in actually the name of Hashem, one of the names of Hashem. So that was the original tradition I was raised in. I was raised Jewish. So that was where I first learned about, that's where I first learned about compassion, compassion prayer. So I would love to answer people's question. People wanted to ask about Rosenstein. Yes, how it looked in the remote was that Rosenstein was aware of the investigation. There were certain parts of the investigation he was not allowed to know about. I'm just going to read my previous notes about everybody. I've got it here for everybody as they appeared in the remote state. Rosenstein was working very closely with Mueller. There was only one way to get into Mueller's group. It had a lot of security around it. That's how it looked energetically. And there was one way in and one way out, and that Rosenstein was only privy to a small portion of the intelligence that was only what he was supposed to know. Then what appears to have happened was that it was Rosenstein and Barr that had to give Trump the rest of the information about what was going to be happening. And it looks like during that meeting, they all pretty much knew where this investigation was headed. When I went into Trump's energy, when I did a meditation on Trump, he told me that he wanted, he saw the way that it's not my mind. I just try to accept him as he is. But he saw John McCain's funeral, and I think he wanted something similar. So he said that he wanted a Scottish Rite funeral. This is what I had recorded for the request of Donald Trump during the Mar-a-Lago party. The first thing he said, we documented it. You can go back to that remote. I believe we documented it. Well, we documented it after the party. He said that he wanted a Scottish rites. He wanted to be sent on his way. He wanted a good Scottish wake. And so that was why everybody went to Mar-a-Lago, to give him a good Scottish wake. So on some level, he knew, in answer to people's question, on some level, he knew when he met with Barr and Rosenstein that this was the inevitable conclusion and that he would have 3 to 4 months to wrap things up. So I want that to sink in for those people who are remote viewers, who were getting that hit and felt like you were going crazy. You weren't going crazy. When Rosenstein and Barr said that they were landing the plane, this is the plane that they were landing. And I think it puts everything in a different perspective now that we are getting more of the information coming out. But that's what it looks like happened. Yes, I believe Rosenstein did arrange to have as much as possible of the Mueller report released to the general public, but they had to do it in a way to land the plane slowly and also not to alert Epstein that he was about to be arrested. An answer to Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen was part of an ongoing criminal investigation. That was the Epstein case, and that was when they knew they had Trump, and that was when he was sent over to SDNY to negotiate and to give testimony. He also had actual documented proof that that crimes had been committed against children. You can see today they released the actual map, if you go ahead and Google it, of where the sex trafficking happened. We documented that remote, and it's linked to yesterday's remote. So you can go ahead and confirm that. We saw the sex trafficking happening in Florida all along the Atlantic Ocean. It upsets me now because I'm not in my remote state. So I apologize if I'm getting a little upset, but it was all along the Atlantic. It was all along the East Coast, and it took place also on the islands. And they were sending girls via clubs, and there were private clubs, and there will be investigations and raids going on in Connecticut, New Jersey. I have the notes. Connecticut, New Jersey, and the islands. Yeah, you can fill in the blanks. So that's what's going on. Do we have any questions here? Just to get me out of this this space. I need to come back a little bit because I'm not protected reviewing this. I didn't put myself in any white light protection before I started to review. Will Acosta resign? Yes, if you go back, there's also links on the last video to Acosta. He will resign, and he's going to be financially bankrupted because a lot of, if you look at that remote, the lawyers don't want to work with him because they see this coming, and he's going to be a pariah. And if you go back to that remote, you'll also see that Epstein said this hell will never end, and that he had figured out a way to get past the surveillance. He thought that he was anonymous. He thought that he had gotten past the surveillance. You could see that in the remote that we did, and we documented that in, I believe, did we document that in February, March? You guys can all go back because I linked it. So yeah, so he thought he was getting away with it. Yemen, what I saw with Yemen was that we were using Saudi airspace because of our alliance with Saudi Arabia, and that goes back to Lawrence of Arabia's alliance with the British for oil, and they've had a long-standing war with Iran, with the Shia, and so that's the tension between the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. That's common knowledge. The thing that struck me that's starting to come out is Ivanka Trump. When I had seen her crying and seen her between a rock and a hard place and gaslit and confused, and the type of man that she had as a parent, and the fact that people were mad at me, that she really honestly did feel like she didn't know what to do. And so, I mean, I understand she's just one person and she can speak her truth, but so I did have some compassion for her. But yes, I do think she has a deal with Mueller. The vision was that Ivanka Trump and Jared have a sealed confession with Mueller. That was the remote. And God, you guys, I should have put myself in. Can you guys send me some white light? Because I'm disassociating a little bit because I didn't put myself in white light. So please send me white light. Yeah, let me ground myself a little bit here. So Ivanka Trump, she cut a deal, and that was encouraged by Michael Cohen, who calls her baby doll. Remember when he said, "Tell him everything you know," because he already knows baby doll? That we heard Michael Cohen say that to Ivanka. It's because he used to adore Ivanka. Now I don't know what kind of future they're going to have together as friends. So Ivanka, with her attorneys and with Jared, gave a testimony, and that came out in the Mueller report. And the consequences of that testimony are sealed, but she's basically probably going to avoid jail. And I see a possible another baby for her. Thanks for the white light. Sometimes I get a little ungrounded. For the other empaths and sensitives, if you sometimes get pulled into another person's energy, just stop the process and go back to phase one of the process. Bring white light up, because we don't want you getting lost in somebody else's energy. We want you to claim your own power first and foremost. Thank you for the white light protection. Mueller. Does anybody want to talk about the psyche of Mueller? He's got a sense of humor, doesn't he? Y'all think he has a sense of humor? I think so. The G-man got his man. You have to also think about the brilliance that the men and women of the FBI are really, really pretty brilliant, that he was able to get that signed, sealed confession, get the documentation that Cohen had witnessed children being transferred and going up to certain rooms. He witnessed all of that. He documented all of that. I personally, thank you, Michael Cohen, for finally coming out and handing that information to SDNY so that this case could finally be broke. But at the same time, I don't think 2 years is enough. The bottom line is that Michael Cohen sat back and helped those girls get transferred. Yeah, he felt bad about it, but the bottom line is that he did it. And the bottom line is that he covered it up while simultaneously covering his own tracks. So go with God, Michael Cohen, but 2 years is not enough. And he will continue to work with SDNY, and he'll also work out a deal with the state. And it has to do with the mounds and mounds of paperwork and documentation he had linking certain people back to Epstein. I feel a lot better, so I know everybody sent me love and light, and I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions about any of the previous remotes or any loose ends from the previous remotes that you feel like, okay, now that we have gone full circle and people are dancing in the streets, we've got it, and basically the series has ended. I'm wondering if I should maybe end Tarot with Whimsy now, since the experiment has come to an end in a way, because I think now it's just going to be filling in the loose ends. I don't know. Maybe we'll change the name to the Oracle of Whimsy, and we'll make it more of a comedy channel. I don't know. It's been so heavy since I started this channel in January. No, teach us. Okay, Pelosi. Pelosi, as I said, was given security briefings going back for quite a while. She did get briefings, and she did get the full Mueller report that was handed over by Rosenstein, as I had previously remoted, because she was second in line. And so that is why Rosenstein made sure that she got a full copy of the Mueller report. I believe I stand by that. I stand by that. Yes, I do take care of myself. I try to, but I forgot to. I messed up. I forgot to ground and do my white light protection before I came on camera, but I'm getting so much protection from you folks that I'm doing great. Mitch says he has no apologies for what he did, that he did what he was expected to do, and that was it. And he said that he has no regrets. It's all about the courts. And that is precisely what he did. They all knew what was happening. They all knew about that. It was coming down. Gee, where did Fox News go? That's another thing people wanted to ask me about. Would Fox be subpoenaed? Yes, Fox is going to be subpoenaed. Bye-bye Fox News. Bye-bye the Mercers. So that's something that's going to come up a lot, is that Fox News no longer supports this president. Neither do the Mercers, and neither do the Cox. And that's because they got a heads up. But also it's because of the Disney merger and the fact that their investors were putting pressure on Fox to move towards a more moderate platform. And that's pretty much what we're seeing. And we made that prediction, was it 6 months ago? Can y'all remind me when that prediction was? Brexit is a disaster. It's all falling apart. I think a light Brexit is what I'm predicting. And there was a congratulations with the intelligence agencies last summer that everything was going to be okay. So they knew last year that everything was going to be okay. It just took us a year to find out. They forgot to tell us, and that was because they hadn't arrested certain people. And until Epstein was arrested, I think they were keeping a lot of stuff under the back burner. And it explains the remotes that I was doing, and Linda G, and special shout out to David Johnson, who I love. I'm a huge fan of his. I know that he does remotes as well. He does the heart-centered, I don't know if he calls it that, but he's been quite accurate as well. And I think this is just the energy that the empaths were picking up on. Hello, tribal woman. We love David. Yes, you can feel his good heart. And we love Linda G. Yes. Will McConnell be voted out? McConnell's in serious trouble. I think he's going to drop down to 32%. My spirit guides are saying 32%. So, gosh, dang, man. Tennessee is going Democrat too. I'm just getting hits on Tennessee. Tennessee's going blue. I'm seeing blue in Tennessee. Jeez, man. Is this what we needed to do to come together as a country? I don't know. Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is working out a deal with the intelligence agencies. Trump probably worked out a deal with the intelligence agencies. He's not going to be arrested, but he will probably have to resign. Like I said, they needed about 3-4 months to land the plane, and that seems to be what they're doing. In exchange, he'll probably resign and I think Ivanka is going to be able to get off. Jared might do some time. I've always thought Jared was going to do some time, and I think that she was crying over Don Jr. in the vision. Remember? She was crying Donnie, and I was getting angry that people were gloating. And I said, "Come on now, you know." And what was Michael Cohen saying to her? We heard him call her baby girl because he was trying to get her to soften and come to the other side. So while everybody was bashing Ivanka, her life was being torn apart, and she was giving testimony to Mueller that was going to theoretically destroy her father's presidency. But in the end, she was going to save her father, even if he didn't want to save himself. So she did the right thing. So people I will not be talking about. I don't want to talk about the wife. What's the wife's name? I'm so zoned out today. Melania. All I can say is that I like her energy, and I think she's been very brave. But Spirit has asked me not to discuss her anymore, so I'm not going to do that, other than to say don't pass judgment on her. And the truth is going to come out someday, and I think people's opinions about Melania are going to change in the coming years. That's all I'm allowed to say about it. Don Jr. and Jared, yes, I'm sorry to say, I've always felt when I've done the remotes that Jared agreed to do. Yeah, Jared's probably going down, but he saved his wife and he saved his family. He was not going to have his children grow up with a father in prison. So yeah, they cut a deal with Mueller, and I think that Mueller got his signed, sealed confession, which is what he said he wanted, and we in February. Remember that? So if you go to yesterday's checkmate, you'll see attached to it the remote viewings from 6 months ago and what Robert Mueller said to us. People want to know about Barr. Was Barr in on it? Yes. I believe Barr was in on it. Barr knew that this was where it was headed, and he was brought in to land the plane. What a freaking nightmare. But he's also a conservative, so yes, I could see him delaying until things were done, until this arrest took place, and until certain legal issues were taken care of with the current administration. And I think he's landing the plane. And I think they brought a conservative in to do it. And, it's a nightmare. What do I see for the Senate? Yeah, I think the Senate's going to turn blue. And this is the cups energy that we had seen coming in, where everybody was going to jump ship and start cooperating. And remember before this all broke open, when I saw the July 4th parade, Trump wanted to go out with the July 4th parade. Can I have my parade before I have to go? Yes, you get your parade. You got your Scottish wake at Mar-a-Lago. He got his Scottish wake, right? After meeting with Barr and Rosenstein, he goes and they all celebrate and toast him, right? What was that about? It was about him getting his Scottish wake. He wanted to be toasted. He wanted to be alive, and he wanted to be toasted and remember the way John McCain was. But he wanted to be there to witness people praising him and praising what a wonderful guy he was. And he thought it was unfair that he didn't get adored and worshipped the way John McCain did. So he got his wake. He got to be at Mar-a-Lago and have everybody celebrate him like a good old-fashioned Scottish wake. And so, yeah, so that's what that was about. And yeah, Lindsey Graham. People wanted to know about Lindsey Graham. Like I said, Beauty and the Beast, Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is Beauty and the Beast is the story of Stockholm Syndrome. It's where you melt the beast by loving them. It's you give them such a great love that you melt the heart of the beast. Do I think that Lindsey Graham was serious when he said, you have, what did he say? He said, you have brutalized this man. That's what he said. That's what he said to us in the remote. You have brutalized this man. So on one level, he did blame the Democrats for not helping this president more. At the same time, It's pretty obvious now why we weren't helping this president. Other question was asked, will the victim testify? Yes, the victim of Donald Trump will be testifying in closed hearing. No, they can't protect him from state charges if they and they can't protect him from civil charges. That was another question. So, yeah, what do you think? Should we change the name to the Oracle of Whimsy and make lighten things up, or keep it to row with? I don't know. I kind of like that name, the Oracle of Whimsy. I think that's kind of cool. People want to talk about Michael Flynn. What do you think? Do you think he's going to spend much time? What do you think? I think there's no reason for them to make any future deals with Flynn because they already had evidence on Epstein from Cohen. Remember when Cohen had also supplied offshore bank accounts to Mueller in the remote, and in the remote viewing, if you go back to that, he had said, "I can get those documents for you," right? So he got those documents. Yes. So that's what that was about. Hope Hicks. What's going on there? So interesting person, Hope Hicks. She has a history of being around strong, dominating men, abusive men, men with a history of being abusive to women. If it's a pattern that started early in childhood, I think it would be very hard for her to stick up to strong men if she had never been raised to have that kind of a backbone. And it might explain why they helped her by bringing their thugs into the hearing that she had to go to. Yeah, I think she cut a deal also. From what I was able to pick up, Hope Hicks did cut a deal, and it looks like the main thing that they're going to publicly be able to get Trump on is obstruction. So, yeah, it goes back to the remote viewing I did when I kept trying to get into the Mueller report. And, the heart-centered meditation, you just follow the energy. So it's not really hard to do if you're an empath. You just first protect yourself, first ground yourself, and then open your heart, and then invite the other person to meet your heart there, and then love them. And then because they're safe, they can give up the facade and tell you what's going on. That's the effectiveness of heart-centered remote viewing versus the other types of remote viewing, which are also good, by the way. It's not a competition. You just have to find the technique that allows you to get in. I like the heart-centered because I like asking permission, and I think deep down, people's hearts are good. Somebody asked if I had ever connected with an evil heart. No, but the closest I've ever come to connecting with a heart that was evil was somebody who had the energy of a dementor, in the sense that when I was in their heart, I felt like my life force was being sucked out of me. And it wasn't an evil person, though he had done bad things. It was someone who suffered from severe depression. And when somebody gets into depression that's that severe, where they can't feed themselves, they can't take care of themselves, it's almost like you're being swallowed by a black hole. It's not that they're evil, it's that they're so shut down you can't find them. They're just lost. And when that happens, it's like a type of shock. They're in a type of emotional shock. And that may have been how they survived severe abuse, often early in childhood, is that they just completely shut down. Again, that doesn't mean that the person you're trying to remote is evil. It just means that they're so hidden from the remote viewer, probably because that was a coping skill they learned early on to survive. That's been my experience. Yes, Linda G and David are both really wonderful. All the readers are great. I like all the readers here. I have no ill will for the readers, that's for sure. Our styles are a little different, but I watch everybody. Roger Stone. What do y'all think of Roger Stone? People, I'm making sure to get to every question that I got asked over the year. Well, you think he's in trouble? You think he witnessed something interesting? Do you think he was going to some of those parties? I think so. I definitely think so. I think that that's gonna be really pretty interesting to see how Roger Stone plays in all of this. The interesting thing about Hope Hicks and, the testimony on the plane and the fact that the Senate called her in, and Don Jr. got called back again because that's probably gonna be the public obstruction, uh, impeachment excuse for impeachment. Privately, though, I think it's I think we're all starting to feel confident that something else is going on in terms of a deal and why it took so long to arrest Epstein. Because for the remote viewers, we got really confused, the remote viewers, because we saw the deal when Ivanka Trump was giving her affidavit. Gosh, what was that, almost a year ago? So I can see why people were getting frustrated. And from the time the remote viewer gives the remote or documents the remote until the time that it actually hits the press, sometimes you got to wait 9 months, you got to wait a year. And then all you can do is just say, okay, be open-minded. I either screwed up, which is okay. It's not a perfect science. You know, why did I screw up? Was I biased? Did I have ill will towards that person? Is that why I thought that was, you know, that's why I always say go back to the technique, which has 3 phases, because it'll ground you and protect you from your own bias, which is number 1, you ground yourself in white light. Number 2, you fill yourself up, love yourself first. Open your heart, invite the other person to enter, lock on, and then the communication part happens. People also wanted to know about how I meditate, if you've got backaches or if you've got pain and you can't sit in meditation for long periods of time. The good news is that the Oracle of Whimsy says that you get to lie down for the meditation if you want to. Woohoo! Liberate the spine. Liberate the spine. For those people who say, you know, I love to meditate, but it's just extremely painful. You can prop some pillows up. Sometimes I like to prop pillows up and go like this, and then my back is nice and comfortable when I go into a remote. People say, well, what if you fall asleep during the first phase of the remote? My response would be, you probably needed to get some sleep. This is a very gentle form of meditation. So if during the first phase you fall asleep because you're exhausted and the only thing you did is connect to white light, and you started the second phase where you felt God's love for you and fell asleep, is that such a terrible thing? That's okay. It's okay if you lie down, get yourself comfortable, have trouble falling asleep, start the meditation by grounding yourself. Imagine white light coming from the earth, white light coming from the sky, sink into the relaxation, allow yourself to abide in spirit. And if you fall asleep, great. And if not, see if you can't reach out to somebody. In the traditional Buddhist way of doing it, the Tibetan way, and also in the Jewish way of doing it, it starts off first with those yourself, those you love, then your family, and those and friends, and then those you have strife with. This type of prayer and this type of meditation is done a lot during the time of Yom Kippur in the Jewish tradition, where we will imagine or try and reach out spiritually to anyone we've wronged. I think for the Muslims who watch, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's also what the month of Ramadan is about. So these ideas of reaching across the aisle, creating peace, interacting with others, healing distension. Am I saying this right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Ill will between people is something that's a cross-cultural phenomenon. I think that's really cute. I caught my live. Yes. Hello, everyone from Erie, Pennsylvania. Yes, Pennsylvania. You folks are going blue again. Let's see. Breed of women we newly elected with the House of Reps. It's interesting where we're headed. Hmm. If Biden gets it, he's leaning towards Klobuchar, but he's also leaning towards Kamala Harris. So Biden knows he has to pick a female running mate. I think he's either going to pick Klobuchar or Harris. Harris would be a good idea, but the problem is that Harris is from California and he needs more of a Midwest or Southern vote. If Elizabeth Warren gets it, she might lean towards Buttigieg. Buttigieg is very popular. I've been checking out Fox News and they really like Buttigieg on Fox. And Buttigieg has also been taking some of the Christian vote because a lot of Christians are not prejudiced, they're just Christians. And they've kind of gotten turned off by some of what's happening in their communities, and they just feel closer to Buttigieg's version of the Christian faith. So what's happening is that he's starting to peel off some of those voters, and he also has been going on Fox News and talking about himself. So now we have Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and Biden are the top picks for moderate Republicans and blue dog Democrats, I think. So it's going to be interesting. If and to some extent Kamala Harris, she's a little bit of a Booker as well. Cory Booker, who's a strong supporter of Israel and friends with Shmuley Boteach, and was his campaign was funded by Jared Kushner and Ivanka to some extent. So it'll be interesting to see if he also can come across the aisle. Warren and Buttigieg would be so great. Yeah, a lot of people have a strong hit on that pairing. What do I think about mental illness and spirituality? I think it's a spectrum. I think that empathy, complex PTSD, soldiers who've been in war for long periods of time, all disassociate. They take themselves to a comfortable or safe place in their mind because chronic stress, you wouldn't be able to function. So some type of disassociation has to take place. In extreme forms with early trauma, it's multiple personality disorder. In a professional empath, they can leave the body and allow other energies to come in, but they have some control over it. If you're trained, if you've had early, I don't think you can be an oracle and not have had some kind of early trauma. I just don't, because you have to be able to switch on that switch to let go of the ego and allow another energy to come in. In the case of heart-centered meditation, the switch that people are seeing is there's kind of a merging between me and the person that I'm remote viewing, which causes people to get really angry at me if I'm merging with Ivanka Trump and I'm saying, hey, she had a good education, she's a nice person, people will go crazy because they don't realize that at the moment I'm going in, there's a kind of merging of my energy with the person I'm reading. And it's because it's heart-centered. You have to love them at that moment. It's kind of interesting. You get into these very deep meditations and you open your heart and you just surrender and you're so in love with the heart of the other person and you're just like loving on them and they're telling you all their deep dark secrets and you're documenting everything and you're just like loving on them and then you go in remote view and you find out that 100 people unsubscribed because you did a remote view on Donald Trump or something like that. But that's the technique is the technique. And yeah, when I go into his heart, I see a frightened 3-year-old boy who's trying to stand like a little soldier with perfect posture and is terrified that he's not even quite 3 years old. And he's terrified that he's a loser and that this expectation that's being placed on him by this parent is beyond his wildest capabilities. And so that's when the disassociation and the cracking in the psyche starts to happen. But it's also why you'll often see him extend his posture when he feels a little bit like he's under the gun. That goes back to that frozen child who was expected to have, perfect posture when he wasn't even 3 years old. So, it is what it is. The traumas exist inside the person, and when you're going into the heart, you can sometimes see them. In Navajo tradition, if you're talking about shamanic traditions, certainly in the Navajo tradition, as I understand it, if we have any Navajo here, they can correct me if I'm mistaken. Those are the unreal parts of the person. In the Jewish tradition, they're called klipa, or shells, that ultimately we're light beings, but we carry these shells in order to survive in this world. And the Hebrew word klipot, or shells, are released. They're released, and then you return back to your true self, which is the light, and you return back to Hashem, to God. That's the Jewish metaphysical interpretation, and it looks like it's very similar to the Navajo interpretation. To turn back, the Hebrew word is tshuva. Tshuva is to repent, but tshuva also comes from the Hebrew word to return back to oneself. To be able to see the true nature of one's existence is repentance. So a little bit of a historical, archaeological, sociocultural interpretation of that. Kellyanne, please. She's not a bad egg. When I go into her energy, there's a part of her that's really loyal, and there's a part of her that it's like having a friend who's mentally ill and is melting. That was kind of how she saw Donald Trump, that somebody needed to come in and help him, and she saw herself as, this guy needs mental help. He's not evil, but he's mentally ill. And maybe to some extent she asked her husband to be a part of the softening of that, to get the GOP to start realizing that this man wasn't mentally well. But it wasn't done in a way where she didn't want to hurt Trump. It's not where she was coming from. She thinks he's mentally ill and he needs medical help. So, now some people might think he's a traitor, but that's not how she just didn't see it like that. Stephen Miller, he's got his followers. I think he'll leave and write books and do research, which is what I had predicted before. I think that he's going to go get hired by some think tank and some various different political groups and intellectual groups that believe in his extreme version of politics. And I think he'll continue writing and doing research for those groups. And he might write a book. And I don't see him as particularly apologetic, I'm sorry to say. So let's see what else we've got here. I live near a city and there's a dem and rep, but a countryside is a place you don't say. I don't get European readings. The European readings, like I said, I thought that France was interesting. I thought that part of what France was saying is interesting, that they're kind of between a rock and a hard place, in the sense that historically France has had a strong relationship with Iran, and they've had a strong relationship with Russia. And then when they became part of the EU, they were just expected to end or change the nature of relationships that had gone back decades. And that was that the statesmen in France on both sides were beginning to have problems with the restrictions that they were expected to have under the EU. Look, I'm not from Europe. I have spent quite a bit of time in Europe. So if I'm getting things wrong, please correct me. I just read energy. But it looked to me like they resented the international community coming in and telling them that their friends weren't their friends anymore. So am I correct on that? I didn't, the migrants, yeah, unfortunately, this is something that came up 20 years ago. Al Gore was talking about areas where the water was not, it wasn't stable, that people would be able to get water, and whole entire cities in India are drying out. And so there are mass migrations happening. Also, some areas are flooding in Bangladesh, so people migrate to get out of there. And then if India closes itself to migration, then theoretically people could die from either flooding or droughts, etc. And it's something that the whole world needs to be active about. The worst case scenario is something that we all have to talk about. And the worst case scenario is that the millionaires and billionaires create a biosphere 2 kind of a situation, which is what Steve Bannon was actively involved in, where they pump in fresh air, fresh water, they grow their own plants and vegetables, and the rest of us, the poorest of the poor, are left outside to the elements. And if we survive, we survive, and if we don't survive, we don't survive. That was the theory of Biosphere 2. In plainer words, the peasants, the poor, would be left to the elements, and the wealthy and the aristocrats would be able to enter into this biosphere kind of ecosystem that was modulated, and the rest of us would be exposed to radiation, sun, drought, exposure. Not a very happy vision. That's the Dystonian vision of the future. I hope it doesn't happen. I think we can save ourselves. Can I get into the energy of animals? Yeah, pretty easily. They're not really very complicated. They want to know who you are. They don't require long. Dogs usually, they're like, "Who are you?" And once you tell them who you are, then they usually want to know one of two things. Will I pet them? They either like present, "Yes, you may pet me," or "Do you have any food?" So for the most part, I haven't found it difficult to communicate with dogs. They're awesome. I love dogs. My cat's very complicated. Yeah, I think there's a paradigm shift. So what do you think? What do you all think? I'd like the viewers who've been watching this for this experiment, because we started this as an experiment in January, where I said I'm going to start documenting my remotes so that the scientific community. I know the scientific community studies empaths. My sister calls them superpowers. I know that people who have been in war often report having more ESP. Soldiers who come back from war. It seems to be stronger in young children. It's just that young children who've gone through long periods of trauma, or in my case, go into hiding for long periods of time, and we have to be hypersensitive. It allows you to develop a super sensitivity to shifts in energy. And then if you want to, you can then get the training to hopefully help people using those skills. It doesn't have to be something negative that you're an empath. It can be something that you get the training and you get hired to use those skills to actually help people. So that's why we train people to be empaths here. I'm so glad people like the readings. So I went ahead and I reposted on the last video links to what Putin thinks. Trump made a deal with our government. That's what I think happened. I think that he is going to get a sealed confession if he hasn't given it already. I think that like I said, they'll give him downtime to resign, and I think that they're landing the plane. I think that that's exactly what happened. I think that Trump is just going to be asked to leave. I think Ivanka made a deal. I think that in exchange for making a deal, Trump will have to cut his. I think that Putin knows that Trump's going to make a deal, because as Trump is leaving the White House, Putin is becoming more and more aggressive. That was how it looked. So Trump gets pulled out and Putin gets pulled in. And I also saw that we would know it was the beginning of the end when we start to see Fox News flipping. And Flynn's not going to be shown any more grace than he already has. So, because they don't need him anymore. So yeah, he's in trouble. Kathy, all right, yes. I like animal readers. I don't do it much for a living. Sometimes if a person books an appointment with me, I will go in and remote connect hearts with their cat or dog, and it's usually fun. Animals are pretty practical when they talk to me. It's fun. It's cool. They're easy to read. Talking a little bit about some of the experiments I did. Well, The one of the experiments we can do is that I wanted to talk to people about is just sending conscious awakening to the rest of the country, because if you send hate, if you send anger, then what happens is people will retract and they will become closed, and then they don't want to listen, and this isn't something that Buddhism talks about. So um, when you open your heart and you take care of yourself first and you make sure you're okay, and then from a place of strength you say, okay, now I'm ready to listen to you. And you really listen to where somebody else is at and send love and pray that they have an awakening or awareness. That's probably the best prayer I think you can do for people right now, because um, uh, it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. That would, I, we'll do some throws on it later, but it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Have I ever remoted another planet? Yes, I have. I think life is pretty rare on other planets. Um, and I think, again, going back to my Buddhist training, human life is extremely rare. So when you get to come into this life as a human being, it's pretty amazing. But yeah, so a little bit. Oh, I've been a blessing. Thank you very much. Yeah, anger reflects like a mirror. That's right. So sending love to Trump supporters, telling them that you get that they were desperate. They didn't read all the news. They were trying to keep their farms from going underwater. They didn't know that they were desperate. So yeah, opening heart, we all make mistakes. I think that it's exactly right what Dave Johnson was saying, to send love and forgiveness, and we need to come together as a nation right now. We don't need to be in fear right now, because that'll lead to civil war. And when people are frightened, they hurt each other, which is exactly the point I was making with this experiment, is that when you get past the fear and connect to the heart of somebody, you see the same capacity to love. I mean, it's sometimes hard to believe, because when people are operating from their persona, from their psychosis, and from their fear, they do things that are evil. But that's very different than saying someone's heart is evil, which I don't think is the case. And I think it also goes back to when they were traumatized, if they were traumatized early on, if there's an organic component to it, like there is with psychopathy, where there's actually something possibly organically wrong. So that's very different than saying that somebody is evil. So yeah. Yeah, when people are really, really frightened, it's kind of like, when you go to a dog rescue and you get a dog with severe needs and the dog is growling and biting everybody, but the dog is very, very frightened, and you say, okay, I'm going to do, and the dog is going to be euthanized because it bit a child or something like that. And so you decide to take on the dog, and you give the dog lots of love and attention, and maybe you even put the dog on puppy antidepressants, and eventually the dog heals and becomes this amazing loving dog, because the fundamental heart of the dog was to be a good doggy, but the doggy was traumatized. So I don't think human beings are much different in that respect. That's true. Magnetic and copper jewelry for pain. Yes, that's true. I know people who wear that. That's right. People with PTSD, particularly complex PTSD, if you did not feel safe at night, if you were being hunted at night, or if you felt like you weren't safe in your own bed at night, then obviously you would have hypersensitivity, listening for the footsteps, um, hiding in your own home. I spent part of my early childhood literally on the run hiding. So again, the horribly traumatic for the child, that early training, but by hook or crook, it forces the empath, who I think there might also be a genetic component to it, um, to develop a certain hypersensitivity. Now, in the case of my sister Tamara, who is the super uber empath, I think we're interviewing her in August, she's partially blind. So and she spent time in an incubator. So her connection, her sense of self in the world is extremely hypersensitive because she couldn't see. She can't see. So in addition to feeling, the being hunted, she also had to maneuver when she couldn't always see where she was, and so that's now she's a professional empath. So again, being able to sense where she is, being able to sense where the danger is, even if you can't see it, she counts that as her early training, and she's well. I mean, a lot of people have read me. I think my sister's the best for me in terms of reading. Um, the guy I'm dating right now, I'm dating because of my sister. So I thank my sister for that. There was a guy I liked, and I asked her to remote view him, and she said, "Oh yeah, he's in love with you." So I ended up dating the guy. So yeah, so she's very good, and it goes back to that early training. Yeah, she's really sweet. Um, Yes, David Johnson, we've been talking about him. He's also, I believe, using an empathy type of technique. And I appreciate the fact that he talks about sending love and not hate, because that's only going to make people more defended. And forgiving and reaching across the aisle is the only way we're going to bring the country together, because more fear is not what this country needs right now. Fear is associated with people getting hurt, more guns, more violence, more paranoia. And instead, we need to just all calm down and reach across the aisle. And the majority of Americans are not bad people. They're good people. When you think about the fact that personality disorders only make up 4% of the general population, that means that the overwhelming majority of people who voted for Donald Trump did so because of other reasons. And so, yeah, hating, anger, violence is not going to take this nation where we need to go right now. All right, that was fun. We spent about an hour together. I think I got through every question. Did I? I don't know if I did. I think I have a couple moments for some last questions for anybody that you needed me to remote. Tea with Tamara. Yes, we call her the half-blind oracle, and she laughs about that because, which is why she's not on YouTube. She's like, I can't see to do YouTube. So she does her readings in person, but I still think we can make it happen for her, because I know a lot of people want to see her technique, and she's been reading longer than me. So yeah, we'll figure it out, because I know people want to get readings from tomorrow. So yes, we will figure it out. Right now, she works in Reno, Nevada. So that's how it is. Mitch McConnell, yeah, what we saw from Mitch McConnell is that he's in a lot of trouble. But look, he didn't apologize. He just said, I did what I had to do because it's all about the courts. It's all about the courts. It's all about the courts. And at this phase in the game, he's non-apologetic about it. He was ignoring the tweets. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the courts, and he cares about stacking the courts. That's all he cares about. Linda wants a reading, and she is in Europe. Sends me an email. I'm still trying to figure out how to use Skype. The truth of the matter is I'm confused about how to use Skype, but if I can figure out how to use Skype, then yes, I can see people in Europe. I'm not very technical. Any other last questions before I say goodbye to everyone? There's a missing backpacker, Theo from Belgium, who disappeared in Byron Bay. Oh, I could try. Usually I don't do crime. I have some ethics about the channel. One of the things I try not to do is if there's a missing person or something like that, it might fall into a gray area in terms of the ethics. I just feel like the police should do that. This was different because this was a public investigation, and the elections were stolen, and so I figured it was okay. Can I use WhatsApp? Maybe. Probably. What do you guys think? WhatsApp? Any suggestions from people who don't live in the United States about how I can give readings that is simple and I can just call you for free? Just feel free to message me or Zoom. Facebook FaceTime is very easy. Okay, is that through private messaging? If it is, then can you sing for us? Yes, I have a Mila song. Somewhere over the rainbow. Somewhere over the rainbow. Like that? I have a song for Mila. I'll leave you with my song for Mila. Mila, 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 Mila. Mila, 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 me. Mila, 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 Mila. Mila, 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 me. We love our Mila. We love our Mila. We love our kitty cat. She's super groovy. We love our Mila. Mila. I love my Mila. I think she's awesome. Mila. We love our Mila. We think she's awesome. She ran away. We love our Mila. We love our Mila. We love our kitty cat. She's super groovy. We love my Mila. Everybody's singing to you. Everybody want to sing to her? Mila. We love my Mila. We think she's awesome. Mila. We love our Mila. We think she's awesome. We love our Mila. We love our Mila. We love our kitty cat. She's super groovy. We love our Mila. All right. Love and light, everyone. Thanks for supporting the channel. And thanks for you for part of being a creative and fun experiment. We were attempting to see if in the meditative state we could follow energy and see what the most likely outcomes would be. I think we did pretty good. Go ahead and grade me. You guys can go back and look at all of the videos here. Everything was documented and the date of upload is included. If you have any more questions, please reach out to me through my email, whimsy@gmail.com. And if you want me to change the name to the Oracle because you think it'd be funny and fun, absolutely tell me too, because I think it would be fun to change the name. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.